Hello, I am Carol Ha, Associate Curator of Contemporary Art at the Freer and Sackler Galleries, the Smithsonian's National Museum of Asian Art. During the museum's closure, I have been catching up virtually with artists from throughout Asia. Please join me as I share some of those virtual studio visits and discussions about their current work, as well as learn more about how their practice has been affected by the profound changes impacting communities all over the world. The subject of this episode is Ahmed Mater, an artist based in Saudi Arabia. Since the early 1990s, Ahmed has employed various media, from painting, installation, and performance to photography and video, and has exhibited his work in numerous museums and biennials worldwide. In preparation for the exhibition at the Sackler in 2016, Symbolic Cities, I traveled to his studio in Jeddah and learned more about his detailed study of the transformation of Mecca, the center of the Islamic world. Since then, he has moved to Riyadh to further his research on the social, economic, and political factors that have shaped the evolution of Saudi Arabia, and to continue developing what he calls an unofficial history of the country through his particular perspective as an artist. In late summer 2020, I made a virtual visit to Ahmed's much larger space in Riyadh. After a tour of the studio, we sat down and discussed highlights of his extensive project to revisit his own body of work and personal memories, as well as mine a vast archive of images capturing moments in the modern history of the Middle East. Much of this research will come together in an upcoming publication that provocatively represents this history in his effort to encourage a vigorous, ongoing dialogue about Saudi Arabia's past, present, and future. Thank you, and I hope you enjoy the program. Hello, Ahmed. Thank you for inviting us into your studio today. I look forward to seeing what you're working on now. It's quite interesting to think back over the years. You know, you started working in Asir in southern Saudi Arabia. Your first studio, right? And you were working. You created the works for which you became well known in the beginning, which were the sort of more traditional format manuscript folio melded with X-ray and collage.
Yes.
And then you moved to Jeddah and you created one of the most comprehensive record of the changes taking place in Mecca and your interpretation of what was happening in Mecca. And then shortly after the exhibition that we worked on in 2016, you moved to Riyadh and embarked on a whole different project. And so I really look forward to seeing how your studio has expanded in Riyadh and chatting about your new project.
Thank you so much. You are welcome and really happy to see you now from Riyadh again and to share with you what's the new and what I'm thinking about now, especially in the new projects that I'm working on. And also, I also do some of old artwork again here. So there is a new project which I called it Prognosis, and it will come as a book as well. That's what I'm working on now. And also, I did some of all the traditional artwork as well as, as a training, especially in the time of Corona. I came back, it's the time that we think again about ourselves and it's like reviewing all of the journey. So from that, I start with the book, I arrange my website, I spend all of my time here in the studio in Riyadh.
That's interesting that you've looked back and revisited and sort of brought together in your project, but also in your studio, all of the different media that you've been working with, from the earlier works all the way to the present. So I'm fascinated to see. So the format you've worked out here is that you will have Mahmoud. I say hello to Mahmoud, who's behind the camera,
yes,
who will film the visit and on your iPhone, and we'll have commentary from you about what we're seeing.
Yes, I will move to another camera, which is the
Okay.
mobile camera, and
Okay.
I will close the camera. Mahmoud, can you take the?
Yes, of course. And okay.
I will take you to the studio here. I'll start with library, which I built for a long time, and some of the book above there is a medical book. As you know, I started as a medical doctor. There is some collection of Islamic art. Here is the photography and some of art and catalog and many things. So I started usually from research in any project. Here is the cinema collection. I collect from Arabic old cinema, but also use it in some archival work. Yeah. So here, some of old cassettes and VHS that I collect for the new project, which is the prognosis, which will coming now, and I will tell you about. Our majlis, we call it majlis. The sofa. In Arabic way, we have to have a majlis. Here is the camera that I just finalized this for a new technique. I collected from different places and build it. If you come, Mahmoud, from here, I'm trying to change this part to use a wet plate, and it will be a big format. Here also the cellular that I use in Mecca for photography, and here another camera, which is the Daredov. This is an American camera from Chicago, famous for the wet plate art. Yeah. Here is the coffee light. Coffee is very important. Without coffee, we cannot, progress. Actually, this doesn't work for me yet, so I'm trying to finalize it. But let me show you some of my trial and the technique of wet plate. This project, I built my plate for. This is for my friend, artist from here. Yep. And this is we didn't do it in the old glass technique. It's a plexi plastic, and I will take you to the dark room as well. So this will be a new project that I'm working on now, using the old camera. There is different event. I do a film in the plastic, but if you see,
it's on glass.
Yes. Here, where I did most of my archive work, the scanner, and here, all of the slides, films, negative, maybe something I'm working on now for the new project.
So the new project you cover a range of a lot of different photographic materials.
I use found object, found news, like information becoming a part of the story of this project. Also working in a new format of photography, which is using the old technique of wet plate.
the Mecca series, for instance, the Desert of Faran series, had a lot of had installations, but also had a lot of photography and video. And now you've gone even further back and deeper into the medium, it seems.
Yes. Yes. Actually, I find exploring through medium giving me a lot of chance to experiment and also send my messages. Yeah. Let me show you the first photograph I find. Can you go more here? Go closer. Yeah, can you see this? It's the first oil signing for Aramco to become 100% Saudi. For me, it's the Last Supper.
So in terms of photographic archives, the accessibility of archives and the nature of archives and what collections are available sort of varies across the Middle East. In Saudi Arabia, I imagine there are a lot of personal or family albums as well as oil companies and those that went on pilgrimage.
Yes.
Are those the kinds of archives that you are searching through?
Yeah, it's for me, the new project is more about the economical value that shaped the country after I studied the Islamic chain and the Islamic city and the future of Islamic city. The question take me to the economical part because it influences a lot of change that happening here and influencing outside. When we want to proof or any proof for photography, so I work on this for photography of digital, because sometimes we need to change from analog to digital or coming back. Some of photo need or archive need to reprint it in the digital or scanning and give it a new look or related to what the message that I want to or what I want to say. Now we come back to the old style. Here is another work that I'm working with now. If you remember the X-ray, when you say the X-ray, this is a transfer photo. There is many technique. One of them is palladium print, or here like Van Dyke process, or using etching press like here, like in this machine here. But here, look, this process now, if you see, here's the gold. I don't know if it's clear. Gold pattern, like the old style. For example, I mix my, material using real gold, Arabic gum, distilled water, and this. And this is the old technique. I mean, it has more details, but in general, it's like this, you can see.
It's been quite a while since you've gone back to this. I mean, it's been, I guess, 20 years since your first work?
Yes, to be honest, I come back now, especially in the time when we stay here during the quarantine. And for me, this is very good meditation, very important. Yeah, so, and I come with many ideas, and I'm thinking to reproduce some of the new artwork. I will show you some of the new artwork in this. Also using akik, we called it the stone here. Just after finishing, we brush the gold, it's giving shining, the old style.
So you're burnishing the paint. I see.
Yes, to give the gold another life. This is the new artwork, just finished. Using this, I'm talking about the new media, and I talking about 90s. And here is, if you can come to, there is some hidden story behind the old Islamic story. There is something called Kalila and Dimna, where they use the animals in the jungle as a political story. Here you can see, I don't know if it's clear, the drone. Yeah, here is the technique for this work using the etching press and sometimes woodcut blade, or depending on what I want to. Yeah, here also I find the old blade in different places: Egypt, Iraq, Jordan, Mecca, Riyadh, and this plate telling a lot of story. One of the interesting story for me is like Uncle Tom. Let me see if I find Abdul Halim. And I find a lot of political message like Arab nationalism in 60s with Abdul Nasser, for example. If I can say, it's an evidence of a time where is, for example, Arab nationalism shaping our, messages. Then the religious part becoming the voice. Then Islamic State becoming the stream, like in Iran, the revolution. Then, all of this conflict shape our, if I can say, generation and some way of thinking and building their dreams, in some way.
But a lot of that sort of social memory, that sort of, collective memory and the shaping of that collective memory happens so fundamentally through photography.
Yeah, and I find very interesting that to find photography in the old technique, like the cinema of Egyptian, for example, cinema, and I try to find the traces of this old stories that tell the social questions for at the time. So it's the image itself which comes through the photography or different photographer process. Here is the letterpress, Arabic letterpress. This is very important, especially for printing of the religious message, Quran, or books. Let me show you some of the, for example, in this table, very beautiful Arabic letter with they call it the thuluth. And here is like how we arrange it. And this is come from Cairo, and there is some come from Beirut. So this project is more comprehensive. I'm trying to reach to all of the technique that people use in social life messages, political propaganda, and maybe the dream of each era, and which is very fast. It's like decades, like 70s, 80s, 90s, very important in the Middle East.
And each era had its own technology for communicating.
Exactly. And why now? Because social media, which will come lately, becoming a new way for freedom, but at the same time manipulating the reality. So it's a big question again and again. So media becoming, from past to now, is evidence or witnesses for all of this political shaping of our life.
It also raises an interesting question of what is more ephemeral, which format is more potentially more ephemeral than others.
Yes, exactly, and that's what I think. Because the Middle East, if we think about maybe 60 to 70 is younger than 30 in age. So I think there will be question for the new generation, what's the real memory? Here is some dates from old story and a lot of books. So all of this is for the new prognosis project. And let me take you to the last part, which is here. Mahmoud will follow after me, the dark room.
Through the time machine, yeah.
Okay, or sunscreen, or whatever I need or cleaning. So I have all of this to develop found film, or the film that I photograph myself, but mainly to reproduce the archive. Here is enlarging. Here is the wet exposure for wet plates. I did here. We make it here. Silver nitrate. I just cleaning the particles from it. Then we put it in a special case with the graffiti. We put it in the silver bath, for example, 3 minutes, or depending on the technique and what I want. Yeah, that's the dark room in there.
Part of the atmosphere of your studio in Jeddah, I remember, is that it was a gathering place for other artists, other designers, and students to share their work, perhaps, or maybe learn how to use some of this equipment. Is that the same?
Yes, exactly. That's exactly why I built this with this size and with the trying to make everything accessible and available for artists, especially young artists and students.
Okay.
So thank you for joining.
Sure. Well, it's there's so much to take in, and I really hope that at some point in the near future I can see that all in person. You have really further evolved your investigation of the primary media that you use. It seems that you're working more two-dimensionally, even though you have done three-dimensional works and performance in the past. You seem to be heavily focused on the two-dimensional.
Yes, that's true. I thought it's very important to, maybe I go more in philosophy about the time and about the how to think about the very sensitivity of this memory, and especially now in different political life that we live on now. So from this, it's become the focus become more about the philosophical question and socio-political, future memory for the new generation. So for me, the real information, or it's the time of information more. So within the archive of image, either to be two-dimensional or all of this for me is the part of message, and that's why I more focus on the if I go deep on the image itself as a evidence, if I can say, or I can say as a message that I wanted to make it available for my generation to think and rethink again about system and life and politics, social life. So all of this question is everywhere, and we find a lot of missing answers.
There are sort of these distinct phases. We talked earlier about how in the beginning you were using the more traditional formats, the painting and the folios. And then for the work in Jeddah and on Mecca, it was looking at religion and economy and public space. And then now you've gone to Riyadh to look at another really defining characteristic, if you will, of Saudi Arabian identity and history, and that is oil and the politics around it. And now perhaps we're at a new transition, a different phase, a new vision strategy. Now I'm thinking of things like the whole NEOM project, right? And I think what's quite fascinating, though, is that you seem to be now at a phase where all of those different parts are coming together into layered images, moving back and forth between media, but it seems to be a kind of culmination point where all of this is coming together in a project that then relates to your own history and biography. So I think it's quite fascinating that all of the threads seem to be coming together right now.
Yes, that's true. And from the book, the new book that I try it will release soon. It's started as an autobiography, but this biography, I use myself or my story as an artwork as well. Trying to start from 79, which is the year that we call it the Sesame year, or the years that changed whole Middle East. Okay, so it's a very important year here, but by chance I born in the same year, 79. So I start my biography using the story of this year, which is related to different change that happening, starting with the Mecca was under the siege by extremists. At the same time, Iranian Revolution, Arab nationalism, and Sadat, and the first Arab-Israeli peace. I mean, everywhere they say it's the years that most of the people go to the street protesting against everywhere in the world. So after that, I start with the 80s, with the new media, influencing of the TV as a story. Then, after that, the Gulf War in the beginning of the 90s, where we becoming very, active contact with America. We see American people here. Even American culture becoming part. We see the fast food more in the, on the street life. I explain a lot about Soviet-Afghan war, very important. The Afghanistan was a big question, and it was, at that time in the early 80s, everyone was supporting the refugees. Then it's changed to very extremist movement. In the 2001, I start to mention the story of 9/11 and explain a lot of background and how this happened from another perspective, from our perspective here as a thinking why people reach to this kind of conflict worldwide. After that, 2003, I start with the Iraq war. Then end of the book, or the last 10 years to Arab Revolution and what's happening now in their life. So the book is kind of this autobiography, but using all of the things that I show you around here as evidence, messages, socio-political. I'm sharing information and what I have in my artistic practice inside the studio.
So what's interesting is you've broken it down into 4 decades. So it's a history, but it also, if one wanted to understand Ahmed Mater, the artist, it also follows that story as well and starts to put your earlier works into this larger context.
Yes, and I called it like, is there to fun? I called it, it's my unofficial history or unofficial history of the things around us. So that's a question. They say, is the official history is the correct or it's unofficial history what we need to know?
It's primarily being presented as a book.
Yes.
Due out in October.
Yeah.
Hopefully still in October. So I think if you have some preliminary layouts to share with, I'd love to see them.
Yes, I should share if I can share my screen now.
Yes.
Yes. Can you actually, did you see it?
Yes.
Yes, actually I share you my InDesign. So it's the raw file. So the book is starting with the old story before 79. He is very famous Saudi singer, you know, and one of the things which is a stop after that as well. Look, here is some of I collect from cassette, from photos from Saudi Arabia before 79, before the religious extreme starting, you know, close everything and becoming, you know, covering faces and stop, you know, music. And so the book will start with something like if you can see, 79 to 80. So this is the first decade. Yeah. Then it's start with ephemeral, like this, personal ephemeral from my father, you know, even the footprint in the hospital. Yes, yes. And this small history telling about the story of education, the satellite, then start with the photograph I collect from films or from TV or from found newspaper or whatever I find as a story. Then I start writing my, so artist comment on the history and the history comment on the artist. So here I'm commenting on the history, and in my ephemera before, the history commented my, you know, shaping my life or my personality. So like what I show you here, I use with the tape, I do collages. So, and I write this story about, for example, when they, when Mecca was under the siege by extremists in 79, like here, if you see, I take a 16 millimeter from the same time, and I write the speech that the Juhayman al-Utaybi say in Mecca for the people when he take the Mecca under the siege. Then I write, for example, something here like, by the nightfall, on the first day of the siege, first time in history that Haram, the old mosque in Mecca, is empty. So it's like very, very crazy moment. But look, here is the first time ever that we saw it empty. In 2020, we say it again because of Corona. Yeah. So then I start after that, you know, try to integrate the artwork, and that I start to ask myself why I'm doing this artwork and try to fit it with the history. Then this is magnetism, where my idea about magnetism is like, this is how I see Mecca from my family, you know, stories that they say, oh, when you go to Mecca, it's like magnet. Everyone will draw. It's the love. It's the, you know, it's more to side of the Sufism or the feeling of the love or attraction. So I put this as a first photo because this is the first artwork that I released about Mecca. Then I start after that doing from the blueprint, like a text, like I show you here, some planning that didn't, then look, this is from the old VHS I find about when the soldiers trying to, you know, take back the Mecca. And that's difficult for them because Mecca is the place that is not allowed for, you know, for, people to, use gun or use, it's the haram place, which is, it's for them, it's like a shock. Then I jumped to 100 found object. I put some of things like, for example, here, the middle of Mecca that Saudi Arabia gave it to the soldier that helped to take Mecca back to them. I mean, that's then, look, the book jumped to the Iraq, for example, Iraq story, because Saddam Hussein becoming the president in 79 as well in Iraq. So
in the margins around the photo, though, photos are sort of your commentary, in a sense,
yes.
Your what you remember or what you would imagine about that history, looking back on it from today.
Yes, or what my family said, or what community around me said. So I'm exactly telling the story that around me, or what, you know, for example, will not find it in any newspaper or in any book, because this is very social, family or friends or memory talk. So I write it as a memory from my side. Then was very important about Iran Revolution. It was very big influence in 79. So
right.
I use cassette because this cassette was the power for a revolution. So they called it Khomeini launched a revolution from a sleepy French village by one cassette. I collect also all the drawing, like in here, you see the Shah going with a lot of money in bags, and the revolution started. So I mean, I collect here, for example, the Anwar al-Sadat during the Jimmy Carter time, when they do the first Israeli Arab-Israeli peace, and they win with the Nobel Prize. And I draw the history in maps sometimes, and I write the notes from my perspective or family memory, or what they discuss every day in our life here.
You often use place and landscape representation to understand the forces that have been shaping the country. For example, at the Sackler 4 years ago, you also debuted a version of this work, Falk Mirage, which sort of clearly showed how you were shifting your attention to Eastern Saudi Arabia and also incorporating more archival materials into your projects. Have you been exploring Riyadh in the same detailed way that you did Mecca?
Yes. For example, if you see this building here, which is in Riyadh, that building is architected by Yamazaki, which is the same architect of the World Trade Center, the two building. And here it's the monetary agency of Saudi Arabia. Contractor was Bin Laden. The time of building is 1981. But if you come back to here, I bring the blueprint of the World Trade Center. If you see here in on the book that I am publishing, and I find something very interesting that Yamazaki mentioned. He inspired by Islamic Arabic architect designing in Saudi Arabia airport in Dhahran to build the World Trade Center here, and he used this. He used this style, which is come from Islamic arch. I was very interested into understanding the city of Riyadh, and then I find this, wow, you know, what is this building? It's two building, and it's like a small World Trade Center. Then I give more research and try to reach out to the architect. Then I find in one of the book of Yamazaki that he mentioned his time in Saudi Arabia and how he started this. So it's come from my interest to the public space, and very important when I study it, I feel it. I go outside and drive around the city and go and walk to explore more and more and understanding the feeling.
A few moments ago, we were talking about how ephemeral or fragile certain aspects of history are. And these images sort of really reinforce this sense that it's only insofar as one still has the means to play back the cassettes and tapes that these archives can be seen or become part of the story.
Yes, that's true. And look, if you see the first decade, which is the 80s, VHS was and cassette was the story, or the main messages, or the main powerful media. In the second decade, which is the 90s, TV and satellite was the power. even for the politics. And the third decade, which is from 2000 and 2010, internet was the story on my media. And from 2010 to 20, social media was the ball. So I divided also as well from VHS and cassette to TV and satellite to internet time to social media time. So it's 4 decades as well. It's the way that I'm trying to, tell my story to the generation now, or to my family or my friend, or as an artist. And I think that was very important for me in this book. It gives me a lot of progress to, it's exciting. It's exciting when I find one information, then from one information jump to find a lot of reality that, it's some of the information is shocking, and some of the information it's like, and it's like was hidden for everyone. And I think this book is a place for discussion and opening a new dialogue as well, again and again. So I'm very excited to see what's the reputation from generation here in Saudi Arabia and also and everywhere in the world regarding this document and ideas.
Well, it certainly does seem like in looking at the juxtaposition of many of these pages, there's plenty to discuss.
Yeah.
We could go on talking forever. So how far does the book go? Where does it end?
The book will end with all of this kind of merging history, stories together. So this is another part, that book telling the story of the future is something new to rethink about it, of understanding what will come. Prognosis is the concept of this project of opening discussion and dialogue and keep awareness. It's really, I thought art could interfere in the politics and awareness in some way. So that's why, maybe I'm very optimistic, but I think that's what I want by prognosis.
So how has confinement in Riyadh been?
To be honest, I like it. I think I like the new generation in Riyadh. There is very active artists and friends and intellectuals, people especially in writing, in poetry. And I explored Riyadh for the first time, and I think I was missing this to think. I mean, what's good? Riyadh is a big city, but around Riyadh in the side, a desert is a big message. It's about, it's about a horizon and thinking and opening more ideas. It's like a insight. So I like Riyadh now, and I'm very, very happy to be here, and it's about the journey. For me, it's a journey, journey is a part of life.